telling guys you're trans. Hi dolls, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna do one of my old school trans videos. Let's get into it. Today I'm gonna talk about telling guys you're trans. This video is primarily focused for trans women telling men they're trans, but the same principles apply for telling women you're trans if you're lesbian, or if you're a trans man telling whatever sex you're attracted to you're trans. But let's get into it. So this is a subject that gets talked about a lot in like media and TV and like stand-up specials, and it's just like a whole thing. It's very taboo, right? You know, the idea of like, especially for men, being tricked or not knowing that like the girl they're going out with is a T-girl. Or for trans women, like, when do you tell a guy? What's the right time? You know, and I think a lot of the time what you see online from like men is like, I want to know right away. It's your responsibility to tell me immediately. And, you know, I think if you're going on a date, like if you're meeting a guy on Tinder or on like Hinge or on Bumble or something, then yes, of course you tell before you go on the date. It's not your opening message. It's not, hi, I'm trans by the way, like, you know, but it's definitely something you communicate beforehand. Not as a rule, you know, everyone is free to do what they want. So if you are a trans girl watching this, don't take the words I say as like, this is what you must do. But more so as like a safety precaution and just a time efficiency. Like if that's not something he's open to, you know, you're wasting both of y'all's time. Plus, like, this is a man we're talking about. Like, I wish all men were great, but you never know. So, like, disclosure there is always big. But I guess, like, let's say you're at the club or you're at a party and you meet a guy there. I think then it's a little more nuanced. Because, like, okay, like, imagine you're meeting me at a party and you're like, hey, what's your name? Like, hi, I'm Kylie, I'm trans by the way, what's your name? Like, that would be really fucking weird. And even if I tried to put it off casually, it's a little more weird. I think if it's something that a guy is really concerned about, you know, then he needs to be asking every girl. You know, every girl he goes out with, he's gotta be like, hey, by the way, are you trans? And see how that goes. You know, I think more, just in general as a society and as individuals, we need to accept that attraction is much more fluid, you know, than it often gets portrayed. And, you know, in general, people tend to be attracted to different pheromones and, you know, signs of masculinity or femininity. And so I just think it's a more nuanced topic than like telling guys right away. I think if you are a trans girl, the safety aspect is probably the biggest part. You know, before you're gonna go alone somewhere with a guy, make sure it's something he's cool with. And if he's weird about it, you never know. Like, I've had situations early on in transition where I just figured every guy would know, where I've been like in danger because of it, right? And so like, let me think of an example. Like, okay, once like very early on in transition, when I was like definitely not passing, I met a guy at a bar and he like came over. And then, you know, as I was getting undressed and he saw that like I was pre-op, like I hadn't had, you know, bottom surgery, he started freaking out and just saying, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you. But really aggressively over and over. And he probably tossed like a good few dozen I'm not gonna hurt yous out there. And I'm just frozen because like, you know, in my mind, in what situation was he going to hurt me? You know what I mean? It's kind of like if I walked into like a bank and I was like, this isn't a robbery. This is not a robbery. I'm not gonna rob you. Like, I'd probably get arrested, you know? Like, it was really scary. And then, you know, eventually I realized that like the freak out with him was more internal than anything. And I was like, it's okay. I was like, thank you. I was like, it's okay. Nobody needs to get hurt. It's okay. And it sent him on his way and it was okay. But still, his first thought was, I'm not gonna hurt you, right? So his first thought was about hurting me. And then he showed the restraint not to do it. There's been other situations where disclosing it was probably a mistake. When I first moved to LA, I'd moved in with random roommates just online, and you know, I thought it would be a good idea to let them know beforehand. And then one of them, the first night I moved in, decided to like do an interview with me for his TikTok, where he asked me what it was like to be trans and just asked me all these really wild questions. So that was weird. mind you, a few months later, he attacks me over toilet paper and starts punching me in the back of the head. And I checked his TikTok, and he made a TikTok about attacking me, and the same day he had made a TikTok about attacking another trans girl in his gym. The exact same day. His name is like Ben Pike, the actor, on TikTok or something like that. This guy Ben Pike, I don't know. Bad news, I should have pressed charges, I didn't, but that's a story for another day. There's actually an old video about that, if you go way back. But that was crazy. And then I've had situations at parties and stuff where, you know, I've told people, and then I step away for a second, and suddenly I come back, and I'm the talk of the town. And everybody's looking at me, and other people are bringing it up to me. So that's really weird, you know? So I think, like, unless you're going to, like, get involved with the guy, like, romantically, or he's gonna see what's going on down there, it's not really something you should have to bring up, you know? It's a little odd. It's kind of like, you know, most women, when they walk into a room, aren't expected to talk about their vagina. So, like, as a trans woman, why would I, or if you're watching this and you're a trans woman, why would you need to talk about what you have going on down there? It would actually be kind of odd, too, on your part, if you come in and you're like, hey, by the way, I'm trans, and I haven't had the surgery yet. Like, no, that would be weird. And, you know, when people ask those questions, like, it happens all the time when you tell people you're trans, that they'll ask you a million invasive questions about surgery. You are not responsible for answering that, and honestly, you probably shouldn't, because it normalizes these invasive questions on your life. But anyways, that was me rambling about telling guys that you're trans for 5 minutes. I hope it was helpful and coherent, but thank you so much for all the support on this channel. We recently passed 10K subs, and we're like almost at 11K already, which is kind of awesome. When I started this channel, I'd always told myself, like, if I got to 10K, that's when I'd start taking it real seriously, and it'd be like, oh, okay, this is like what I do now. And I kind of am, you know. I think the financial aspect, like what I expected to earn from 10K, it's not, you know, it wasn't as realistic as 10K actually is, but it's not about the money. It's also just really cool to put out content like this that's like kind of fun and educational, and I just like sharing myself. But yeah, I've been like really trying to find a balance between like topics that I think will do well, you know, with my audience and stuff, and then also topics I really want to talk about. But if you've been enjoying it, please subscribe. Like 87% of the people who regularly watch my videos aren't subscribed. So if you're someone who's like watched a ton of my videos, I really appreciate it. It genuinely helps me out more than you can imagine. So does checking out my other social medias. That's big too. They're all linked in my about, and the username's the same. Especially the Instagram. I don't even make money from Instagram. I just like to see the numbers grow. If you want to check out spicy content I make, Akira Rabbit is the name you're looking for. Akira, like the comic book, and Rabbit, like the rabbit. Yes. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Love ya.